All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sticking it out this long. As most of you know, I'm your secretary, Daniel Ziemba, and I am here to introduce a speaker with whom I have a little more history than most of you might have guessed. We actually, both he, his brother Kyle, his father Norm, and I were all involved in the Troop 179 of the Boy Scouts of America. Kyle and I making Eagle, Justin Nazaroff, our speaker today, making Life. His speech title today will be Don't Be Afraid to Walk Away, so playing into that theme. But one thing that he has not walked away from is the fight for liberty. And as many of you will know, he is the, I suppose you would say, the head or the primary person involved in Fenix Ammunition, what many of us have found to be an excellent local ammunition company, and one which gained notoriety for their stalwart refusal to bow down and obey Gretchen Whitmer's illegal orders at the beginning of the year 2020. It is with great pleasure that I welcome to the Libertarian Party of Michigan Convention, Justin Nazaroff. Justin, thank you for being here.
Okay. Well, they told me to dress business casual, but I started a company so that I could wear a t-shirt to work every day. So, and I'm the one with the ammo company, so what are you guys going to do about it? So, it's been an interesting 5.5 years. So, I started Fenix Ammunition with my brother in October of 2016, right? Right before things really started to take some weird turns in this country. And my journey into this business is kind of different. You know, my parents are both fairly conservative. They tried to raise me right. You know, we weren't allowed to have toy guns because they didn't want me to turn out bad, right? No violent video games, that kind of thing. So, unlike a lot of other people in the gun industry, I don't have a military background. I've never been hunting a day in my life. So my introduction to the gun industry was when I got my first apartment. I was 22, you know, started to date a girl pretty seriously, and I realized that, you know, I have a responsibility as an able-bodied male in this country to protect not only myself, but those around me that can't protect themselves either. And frankly, the best tool by which to do that is a firearm. That's just where we are with today's technology. So that was my entrance into the gun community. I got my concealed pistol license, I bought this gun, and I carried it for probably 8-9 years without realizing that, to be honest, I was probably more of a societal liability than an asset. So that led me into talking to my brother one day. He was working for a small ammo reloading company. I was working for an insurance company dealing with manufacturers for about 10 years and looking to get into something else. And so we had an opportunity to buy the equipment from the business he worked for and started under our own brand. And that's really when I started to understand the gun community the way that I do now. I took my first formal training class, and that's when I realized that I had been carrying a gun for 8 or 9 years and really didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have. I went to a training class and I saw all these people that were far more skilled than I was, and you know, I realized this mindset of thinking that you're going to turn into John Wick when the time comes. You know, shooting is a skill-based activity, and so often we think we're going to rise to the occasion when in reality what happens is you fall to your lowest level of training. And so that's when I really started to investigate, okay, what do I need to know about this industry? What am I missing? And you know, what can be done from my perspective as a civilian, somebody who isn't a hunter, who isn't the typical, you know, orange vest NRA member for 40 years, card-carrying NRA member. How do I start to differentiate not only myself, but our company to try to fill some of the voids that I see. And it's kind of funny, here I'm at the Libertarian State Convention, and I'm technically part of the military-industrial complex that we all hate, right? But I prefer to think of it the opposite. So I think of myself as part of the, I don't know what the right word is, the militia industrial complex, or the civilian industrial complex. And that's kind of been my experiences so far. The history of the Second Amendment in this country is pretty rich, and it's unfortunate that it's become part of this military-industrial complex mindset. You're like, so how did that begin? So we won our independence, and now we're this nation unto ourselves. We pissed off a lot of people along the way. The British, the French helped us out, but now the French are looking at us as a nice little snack. We don't have the ability to defend ourselves the way that we used to. So we had to create an entire defense industry out of nothing. People kind of wonder why so many gun companies are located in Connecticut, for example. Well, it was an original colony, and they were also next to a lot of running waterways, which we needed to power forges and industrial mills of the day. So that's really how things started in this country. We've got a rich tradition of the civilian ownership of firearms because that's what we needed to survive. We won our independence, and then from there we had to maintain that independence. And so we had to build those industries from scratch, and those became woven into the fabric of our society. And unfortunately, a lot of them have grown into something that have become much bigger. They're more like state-owned entities than they are private companies. So being a small business and being part of that world, I started to see that differentiation. Companies like, I won't name our competitors in particular, but most gun companies really aren't as pro-Second Amendment as you might think them to be. They make most of their money selling to the government, they make most of their money selling to police departments, and a lot of them are willing to sacrifice, they make money on the fact that we're allowed as civilians to purchase the government bestows upon us supposedly this right to buy firearms. And they're fully willing to do that, but around the world, that's not the case. We're absolutely a unique country in that respect, and so they like our business, but they don't make their business model around us as a business, right? We're a side benefit. We're a bonus to them. And so I thought, well, why not try to be a company that looks at serving the civilian population first, and maybe along the way, if there's an opportunity for me to work with the government or the military, that's a side benefit to me, but it's not something that I really want to concentrate on. And so, as we got going and trying to figure out how to be a small fish in a big pond, that's the niche that I decided we wanted to carve out. We started with competitive shooters. That was kind of just a natural starting point. Guys that are shooting every weekend, doing it for fun, and from there, we moved into really starting to try to understand what we wanted to stand for as a company. So, here we are, the pandemic starts, and everybody starts buying guns and ammo, right? I remember it very vividly because I left the office early the day that they announced the shutdowns here in Michigan, and I was at the gym, and I'm looking at my phone, it's like, man, we're having a really big sales day. What's going on? Maybe I should turn on the news or something. This might be a bigger problem than I thought it was. And that lasted for months and months, and I thought it would never end. And so then in the meantime, we're being told by the state, hey, we're going to shut down all non-essential businesses, and they start publishing lists about, what's an essential business and what's a non-essential business. And again, I never thought of myself as part of the defense industry, but of course, the defense industry was one of those essential businesses that was exempted. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm part of the defense industry now. But it was an interesting conversation with my employees. you know, we sat down and a lot of them were, that was at the time where we weren't really sure what was going to happen. Were they going to shut down the roads and put up checkpoints? Were they going to, you know, go door to door, make you show proof of you working for a non-essential business to travel? You know, there was a lot of talk about those kinds of things, and so we sat down with our guys and said, hey, you know, we're not going to shut down. I don't really care what they say. We're going to keep working, and we'll figure out a way to do that. So, what do you guys need from me to feel comfortable doing that? You know, do you need to? I live very close to our facility. Do you guys want to stay at my place? Do we need to get a hotel for you guys? Are you know, do you want to sleep here? Like, what can we do to make sure that you guys can continue to feed your families, get your paycheck every week, and support yourselves while doing our best to get around these mandates? And so that was when I really started to get more involved in the politics. It was a tough time because I looked at the business and you wondered if everything that you worked for was just going to be evaporated tomorrow at the behest of some politician. And you thought to yourself, well, here I am, I own a literal gun company. And here the government might show up at my door and try to shut me down. Like, we're the one with a building full of guns, and they're going to shut my business down. You know, how would I feel if I was a restaurant owner or a gym owner or somebody else who theoretically might not feel the same level of safety with being basically armed everywhere you go and being kind of surrounded by that lifestyle? And that's when I really started to kind of change the way that I looked at our company, and I decided I really wanted to get more vocal about exactly how we go about what we do. And so, you know, that turned into quite a journey. We ended up getting fined by the Novi Police Department for not wearing masks in our own business. That's the day I decided I was going to stop selling to police departments. And that was tough too. I remember 2 years prior to that, I made a post on one of our social media platforms that was not even really anti-police. There was a shooting of some kind in Chicago. I can't even remember exactly what happened, but I thought the police acted prematurely. I said, you know, unfortunately, if you live in Chicago, basically police assume that if you have a gun, you're a criminal, because you pretty much at that point in time couldn't have a gun in Chicago without actually being a criminal. So I said, you know, unfortunately, we've biased our police officers into believing people who have a gun are automatically a criminal. And even that mild criticism of police drew a ton of negative commentary, and I ended up deleting the post, and I felt terrible about it. I thought to myself, here I am, I'm this guy who quit his day job to start a business so that he could say and do whatever he wanted, and here I am feeling pressured that I have to delete this social media post because I'm being critical of police in a time where, I mean, I think I was justified in critiquing them. So fast forward 2 years to the point where I'm getting fined inside my own business for not wearing a mask. And I thought, okay, well, you know, people really need to understand what the deal is here. Like, unfortunately, the gun community tends to be very pro-police. And I don't want to like turn this into a huge anti-police speech by any means, but unfortunately, what we're realizing is that a lot of people in law enforcement will enforce things that they have no real authority to enforce. Mask mandates, for example. Yeah. So from there, where do you go? Red flag laws, right? How many police officers are really going to be willing to walk away from their job to prevent enforcing a law that they know full well is not constitutional? And as a gun community, how do we address that? You know, when I see somebody with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag on their truck, and right next to it is a "Support the Thin Blue Line" sticker, you know, can those things really coexist? Like, how do we start having those conversations? And we have to be comfortable having those conversations. But unfortunately, a lot of other companies in the industry, because they put so much of their business model in selling to law enforcement and selling to the military, they're not really able to speak on those topics. There are very few companies who are willing to take a stand in that respect, because unfortunately, they have stockholders to report to in a lot of cases. They've built their business model around fulfilling police and government orders. But I thought, here I am, I'm not in that position, and probably never will be. I'm too small to fulfill a military contract for 200 or 300 million rounds. So this idea that I need to keep myself pure and pristine, and I'm worried about the government looking at my Twitter account and finding some anti-government post that's going to prevent me from landing this government contract. What am I really worried about? Is that really where I think this company is going to go? And I just decided we need to start trying to get more people in this industry to start thinking in that direction. We have to be willing to have those kinds of conversations, and we have to be willing to walk away when we need to. So, what does that mean? We have to be willing to walk away from the chance to make a sale if it doesn't fit into the bounds of what we want to stand for as a company. And I would say the next kind of big thing for us was we put up, well, I made the decision, I won't put it on my other employees. I put a banner on our website after the election in 2020 saying, basically asking if you voted for Joe Biden. And if you said yes, then it redirected you to Joe Biden's campaign website where it talked about his gun control plan. And I thought it was just funny. I kind of did it to just troll people, and all of a sudden I'm getting calls from like Fox News and Newsmax and all these people wanting to know about this, and people are writing hit pieces. And it turned out great, and best split decision I ever made. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought this is exactly what we should be thinking of as a company. Why should I feel? I'm thankful to be in a position where I can turn down the money of somebody who doesn't really believe in what we believe in. I mean, if you voted for somebody that says right on his campaign website that they want to ban the online sale of ammunition, and then you want to buy ammunition from me online, why should I feel the need to do business with you? Luckily, again, I happened to be in a position at that time where I didn't have to. And at the beginning of the company, that wasn't the case, right? When you're first getting started and you've mortgaged your house and you've liquidated your 401k and you're not sure how long that's going to last, and you're going to gun shows and just trying to sell every round you can to make payroll, unfortunately you're in a position that a lot of other people are in this society where you really can't say what you want because you're worried about losing your job, or you're worried about your family thinking differently of you, or your friends, or what have you. And luckily I don't care what my friends think, so it was an easy decision for me. But I thought, again, as a gun industry, if there's any industry that should be willing to stand on its own and say, this is bullshit, we need to start examining what we believe in and who we're going to support. It should be us. I mean, if not the gun industry, then who, right? I mean, who else? So again, it's been a time where I've had to think long and hard about the survivability of the company, but how do we go about finding the right customer base to continue to be able to say the things that we want to say without worrying about going out of business, and that's been it's been an interesting journey for sure. Sorry if I'm meandering a little bit. I'm kind of winging it here, which I enjoy. So, what's going good with guns in the gun industry and gun ownership? Permitless carry. That's now going to be hopefully the majority of states. There are two that are looking like they're going to pass it. And so, now we'll be able to say, hey, look, the majority of states, 25 or 26 states out of 50, you can carry a gun concealed without a permit. So this nonsense that concealed carry, people who carry guns are in the minority, and we're the weird ones. That time is come and gone, I think. And so we need to do a better job as gun owners of highlighting that fact. I think my goal is to try to push people to find ways to normalize gun ownership, and I think part of that is doing it at the grassroots and the local level. And so that sort of ties back into my experiences with libertarianism and the Libertarian Party. I think you have to start small and start to work your way big. I talked about this a little bit at the 2A rally in Lansing back in October. I said, I'm actually quite jealous of the marijuana industry in many respects. Those guys basically started off, way more restricted than guns have been. You couldn't own anything, and those guys were willing to go to jail, and many of them did go to jail. And they started in California, and they normalized it. Then they moved to Colorado, and they normalized it. And now look where we are, right? You can buy recreational marijuana in a whole lot of states. They've made a ton of progress over the last 20 or 30 years, progress that I wish the gun industry could make, right? How many states can you buy a silencer without, a tax stamp? 0.
None.
How many states can you buy a machine gun without a tax stamp? 0, right? So, a lot of these guys, again, I have a lot of friends who are just like this. Oh, those hippie pot smokers, who wants to be like that? Well, I kind of do. I kind of wish our industry would have the amount of cojones that these guys have had over the last few decades. They've really put themselves on the line and forced things through that they probably never could have imagined that they could have forced through, and they've been rewarded. So I think we have to start doing that as a gun community. I'm not advocating that anybody here go to jail necessarily, but there's a lot to be said for non-compliance. I'm a big believer in deterrence, so what does that mean for the average gun owner? For me, deterrence is, well, if the government, one thing that drives me crazy about gun owners is the I lost my guns in a boating accident mentality, right? Where I feel like people are often afraid to even admit that they are a gun owner because they're worried about being tracked, and they're worried about ATF showing up at their door. And sure, those things are valid concerns, but the ATF can't show up at everyone's door. They only have on average 32 field agents per state. So at some point we just have to say, hey, look, if everybody in this country owns an AR-15 and owns body armor, like, what are you guys going to do about it? Are you going to show up at everyone's door? Probably not. And I think we have to stop hiding who we are. We have to stop, acting like we don't own these things and trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. Me personally, I really enjoy putting up my training videos so that people can see what it looks like to actually train with guns. I think that's something that we need to normalize. So, kind of getting back to the title of my speech, Be Willing to Walk Away, I think that's what I've learned through this journey is I've been willing to walk away from customers. I've been willing to walk away from even friends who, I'm not going to not be their friend anymore, but if at some point we're having a discussion about guns and you just can't reach a middle ground, you have to be willing to say, hey, look, I can appreciate your opinion, but I'm never going to give up these guns. And so whatever you believe in and whatever politician you vote for, just understand that at some point, if it comes to that, that's where I stand. And I think we have to be able to do more of that. And I think libertarians do a better job of that than Republicans, for sure. That's why I've always, found myself more in line with the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian mindset than most others. And I've tried to incorporate those practices into my business as best I can, even being in such a regulated business as it is. So I guess that's kind of it. I would say if there's any suggestion that I could provide for those of you here as part of the Libertarian Party would be, don't lose track of local politics. I think even as a business owner, I have the same mentality where you think of big lofty goals and there's all these incremental steps you can take along the way. I'd rather see 3 libertarians on the Novi City Council so that I don't have to, get a permit to build a deck on the back of my house than I would see a libertarian candidate for president get 1% of the vote. And for me, that's what I identify with. That's what I can see as a consumer, if you will, rather than as a politician. As a business owner, I would love to see less regulation at the city level, and we work that up to the state level, finally to the national level. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me here.